as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie orange glow over the dense Appalachian wilderness. A group of 5 individuals gathered at the edge of the forest. Each of them harbored a unique reason for joining this daring expedition, but they all shared one common goal: to uncover the truth behind the legendary creatures that supposedly inhabited these remote mountains. Alex, the tall and muscular leader of the group, stood confidently at the front, his eyes scanning the horizon with an intensity that betrayed his years of experience tracking and studying cryptids. He had dedicated his life to proving the existence of these elusive beings, and this expedition represented the culmination of his efforts. Beside him stood Mia, a strikingly beautiful documentary filmmaker with long dark hair and piercing green eyes. She clutched her camera tightly, eager to capture groundbreaking footage that would catapult her career to new heights. Her seductive aura was palpable, and she knew how to use it to her advantage. Ryan, the skeptical tech expert, adjusted his glasses nervously as he surveyed the group. He didn't believe in mythical creatures, but he couldn't pass up the opportunity to test out his latest gadgets in such a challenging environment. His analytical mind and quick thinking would prove invaluable in the days to come. Tina and Jamal, the adventurous couple, exchanged excited glances as they prepared for the journey ahead. They had always sought thrills and excitement, and this expedition promised to deliver both in spades. However, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were venturing into uncharted territory, both literally and figuratively. As the group set off into the darkening forest, the oppressive silence of the wilderness enveloped them. The air was thick with tension, and the weight of their collective expectations hung heavy on their shoulders. They knew that they were about to embark on an adventure that would test their limits and force them to confront their deepest fears. Alex led the way, his keen senses attuned to the subtle signs of cryptid activity. He moved with purpose and determination, his every step a testament to his unwavering belief in the existence of these mythical beasts. Mia followed closely behind, her camera at the ready, capturing every moment of their journey. Ryan brought up the rear, his backpack filled with an array of high-tech equipment designed to detect and analyze any anomalies they might encounter. He remained skeptical, but he couldn't deny the growing sense of unease that gnawed at the edges of his consciousness. Tina and Jamal walked side by side, their hands intertwined as they navigated the treacherous terrain. They whispered to each other, their voices barely audible above the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of unseen creatures. They couldn't help but feel a growing attraction to one another, as if the danger and uncertainty of their situation had heightened their senses and amplified their desires. As night fell, the group settled into a makeshift camp, their nerves frayed and their adrenaline pumping. They huddled around a small fire, the flickering flames casting eerie shadows across their faces. The oppressive darkness of the forest pressed in on them, and they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Alex shared stories of his previous encounters with cryptids, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and reverence. Mia listened intently, her eyes wide with fascination and desire. Ryan rolled his eyes, but even he couldn't deny the allure of these tantalizing tales. Tina and Jamal cuddled close, their bodies entwined as they sought comfort in each other's embrace. They exchanged passionate kisses, their hands exploring one another's bodies with an urgency born of fear and desire. As the night wore on, the group's exhaustion finally overcame their apprehension, and they drifted into a fitful sleep. But their dreams were haunted by images of shadowy figures lurking in the darkness, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly malevolence. Unbeknownst to them, their journey had only just begun. The true horrors of the Appalachian wilderness were still waiting to reveal themselves, and the group would soon discover that some mysteries were better left unsolved. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the gloom, the group awoke to find their campsite in disarray. Their belongings were scattered haphazardly, and there were strange, unidentifiable footprints surrounding their tents. It was clear that something had been watching them, something that didn't want them to uncover its secrets. With a newfound sense of urgency, the group set off deeper into the forest, determined to uncover the truth behind these mysterious occurrences. But they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being led into a trap, that the sinister predator lurking in the shadows was toying with them, drawing them further into its web of darkness and despair. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the Appalachian wilderness, the group would be forced to confront their own fears and desires, to grapple with the darkness within themselves and the darkness that surrounded them. They would discover that the line between myth and reality was far more blurred than they ever could have imagined, and that the true nature of the creatures they sought was far more terrifying than they could have ever anticipated. And so the stage was set for a chilling tale of survival and self-discovery, a tale that would forever change the lives of those who dared to venture into the heart of darkness. The expedition had begun, and there was no turning back. As the group delved deeper into the Appalachian forest, the foliage grew denser, and the air thickened with an oppressive humidity. The towering trees cast long, twisted shadows that seemed to reach out and grab at them, as if trying to pull them into the darkness. The eerie silence was occasionally broken by the distant calls of unseen creatures, their haunting cries echoing through the dense underbrush. Alex led the way, his keen senses on high alert as he scanned the surroundings for any signs of the elusive cryptids they sought. Mia followed closely behind, her camera at the ready, capturing every moment of their journey. Ryan trudged along, his skepticism slowly giving way to a growing sense of unease. Tina and Jamal brought up the rear, their earlier excitement replaced by a gnawing apprehension that seemed to seep into their very bones. As they pushed onward, the group began to notice strange occurrences that defied logical explanation. Large, shadowy figures were glimpsed flitting through the trees at the edge of their vision, only to vanish when they tried to focus on them. Unidentifiable tracks, far too large to be any known animal, appeared in the soft earth beneath their feet, and there was an unsettling, almost electric charge in the air that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. Tensions within the group began to rise as their differing perspectives on the existence of cryptids came into conflict. Alex, driven by his obsession to prove the existence of these mythical creatures, grew increasingly frustrated by Ryan's persistent skepticism. Mia, torn between her burgeoning attraction to Alex and her journalistic instincts, found herself caught in the middle of their escalating arguments. Meanwhile, Tina and Jamal's relationship was being tested by the mounting pressure and the ever-present sense of danger that surrounded them. They clung to each other for comfort, but the fear in their eyes betrayed the cracks that were beginning to form in their once solid bond. In an attempt to alleviate the tension and refocus the group's efforts, Alex decided to split them into smaller teams to cover more ground. Mia reluctantly agreed to accompany Ryan, while Tina and Jamal set off together, their nerves frayed and their senses on high alert. As Mia and Ryan ventured deeper into the forest, they stumbled upon a hidden clearing filled with strange glowing fungi that cast an otherworldly light across the damp, moss-covered ground. The air was thick with an intoxicating, sweet scent that seemed to cloud their minds and dull their senses. Mia, her curiosity piqued, began to explore the area, capturing stunning footage of the bioluminescent flora. Ryan, however, remained on the edge of the clearing, his skepticism giving way to a growing sense of unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that some unseen presence lurked just beyond the reach of their vision. As he scanned the surrounding trees, he caught a glimpse of something large and shadowy moving through the underbrush, its eyes glowing with a malevolent intensity. Before he could alert Mia, a piercing scream echoed through the forest, sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through their veins. They sprinted back towards the direction of the sound, their hearts pounding in their chests as they fought their way through the dense foliage. When they finally reached the source of the scream, they found Tina and Jamal huddled together, their faces pale and their eyes wide with terror. In the center of their makeshift camp, a large, unidentifiable creature lay sprawled on the ground, its body twisted and broken. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before, its features a grotesque amalgamation of various animals, yet somehow distinctly human. As they stared at the lifeless form, a wave of revulsion and fascination washed over them. They had come seeking the truth behind the legendary creatures of the Appalachian wilderness, and now they had found it. But the price of that knowledge was far greater than they could have ever imagined. The group stood in stunned silence, the weight of their discovery settling heavily upon them. The darkness that had surrounded them since the beginning of their expedition seemed to close in, tightening its grip on their hearts and minds. They knew that they were no longer simply observers in this chilling tale, but active participants in a nightmare that was far from over. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie orange glow over the forest, the group huddled together, their earlier conflicts forgotten in the face of the horror they had witnessed. They knew that they were not alone in these dark woods, that something sinister and malevolent lurked in the shadows, watching and waiting. And so as the night closed in around them, they clung to each other for warmth and comfort, their fears and desires mingling in the oppressive darkness. They knew that they would have to face the darkness within themselves if they were to survive the darkness that surrounded them. And they knew that the true test of their resolve was still to come. As they drifted into an uneasy sleep, haunted by the images of the twisted creature and the glowing eyes that seemed to follow them wherever they went, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn deeper into a web of darkness and despair from which there would be no escape. And so the stage was set for the next chapter in their harrowing journey, a chapter that would force them to confront their deepest fears and darkest desires. The expedition had taken a dark and provocative turn, and there was no turning back. As the first light of dawn crept through the dense canopy of the Appalachian forest, the group awoke to find their campsite in disarray. Their belongings were scattered haphazardly, and there were strange, unidentifiable footprints surrounding their tents. It was clear that something had been watching them, something that didn't want them to uncover its secrets. The discovery of the twisted creature the previous night had left the group shaken and uneasy. The initial excitement of their expedition had given way to a gnawing fear that seemed to seep into their very bones. The darkness that surrounded them felt heavier, more oppressive, as if it were trying to smother them. Alex, ever the stoic leader, tried to rally his team, urging them to push onward in their search for answers. But the cracks in his facade were beginning to show, and the weight of his dark secrets threatened to consume him. Mia, torn between her growing attraction to Alex and her journalistic instincts, found herself caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Ryan, his skepticism shattered by the events of the previous night, threw himself into the search for answers with a newfound determination. He pored over the data collected from their various encounters, searching for patterns and connections that might help them understand the true nature of the sinister predator that stalked them. Tina and Jamal, their relationship strained by the mounting pressure and fear, struggled to find solace in each other's embrace. The darkness that surrounded them seemed to amplify their insecurities and doubts, threatening to tear them apart. As the group ventured deeper into the heart of the Appalachian wilderness, the strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena grew more frequent and intense. Shadowy figures darted through the trees at the edge of their vision, only to vanish when they tried to focus on them. Whispers and murmurs seemed to echo through the forest, as if the very trees themselves were trying to communicate with them. The oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on their minds, clouding their thoughts and dulling their senses. It was as if the darkness itself was trying to consume them, to drag them down into the depths of despair. In an attempt to regain some semblance of control, Alex decided to split the group into smaller teams once again, hoping that they might be able to cover more ground and gather valuable information about their elusive foe. Mia reluctantly agreed to accompany Ryan, while Tina and Jamal set off together, their nerves frayed and their senses on high alert. As Mia and Ryan ventured deeper into the forest, they stumbled upon a hidden cave nestled at the base of a towering cliff face. The entrance was shrouded in shadows, and an eerie, otherworldly glow emanated from within. Drawn by curiosity and a desperate need to find answers, they cautiously entered the dark, foreboding passage. The air inside the cave was thick and stale, as if it hadn't been disturbed in centuries. The walls were adorned with strange ancient symbols that seemed to dance and writhe in the flickering light of their torches. A sense of unease settled over them, as if they were intruding on some sacred, forbidden space. As they delved deeper into the cave, they discovered a vast subterranean chamber filled with the remains of countless creatures, their twisted and broken bodies piled high in grotesque, macabre displays. The sight was almost too horrific to comprehend, and a wave of nausea washed over them. It was clear that they had stumbled upon the lair of the sinister predator that had been stalking them, and the true extent of its depravity was almost too much to bear. But amidst the carnage and chaos, they found something even more disturbing, a series of crude, primitive drawings that seemed to depict the predator itself. The creature was unlike anything they had ever seen before, its features a grotesque amalgamation of various animals, yet somehow distinctly human. Its eyes seemed to burn with a malevolent intensity, and its twisted, elongated limbs ended in razor-sharp claws that seemed capable of rending flesh from bone. As they stared at the horrifying images, a chill ran down their spines, as if the very air around them had turned to ice. They knew that they were in the presence of true evil, an ancient and powerful force that had been lurking in the shadows for centuries. Meanwhile, Tina and Jamal's search had led them to a secluded, overgrown clearing filled with strange bioluminescent flowers that cast an ethereal glow across the damp, moss-covered ground. The air was thick with an intoxicating sweet scent that seemed to cloud their minds and dull their senses. As they explored the area, they stumbled upon a hidden underground spring that bubbled up from the depths of the earth. The water was crystal clear and ice-cold, and they couldn't resist the temptation to drink from the ancient, primordial source. But as they quenched their thirst, they felt a strange, unfamiliar energy coursing through their veins. It was as if the water itself was alive, imbued with some ancient primal power that seemed to awaken something deep within them. Suddenly, they found themselves overcome with an intense primal desire that seemed to consume them. They were drawn to each other, their bodies entwined in a passionate, desperate embrace that seemed to transcend time and space. As they lost themselves in the throes of their unbridled passion, they felt a sudden, jarring shift in the atmosphere around them. The oppressive darkness that had surrounded them since the beginning of their expedition seemed to dissipate, replaced by a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. They knew that they had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary, a force that could help them overcome the sinister predator that stalked them. But they also knew that they would have to confront their deepest fears and darkest desires if they were to harness its power and survive. As the group reconvened at their makeshift campsite, they shared their discoveries and experiences, their earlier conflicts forgotten in the face of the newfound knowledge and power they had uncovered. They knew that they were no longer simply observers in this chilling tale, but active participants in a struggle that would determine their very survival. And so, as the night closed in around them, they stood together, united in their determination to face the darkness that surrounded them. They knew that the true test of their resolve was still to come, and that they would have to confront the predator in its own lair if they were to have any hope of survival. As they drifted into an uneasy sleep, haunted by the images of the twisted creature and the glowing eyes that seemed to follow them wherever they went, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn deeper into a web of darkness and despair from which there would be no escape. And so, the stage was set for the next chapter in their harrowing journey, a chapter that would force them to confront their deepest fears and darkest desires. The expedition had taken a dark and provocative turn, and there was no turning back. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the dense canopy of the Appalachian forest, the group awoke to face the daunting challenge that lay ahead. The revelations of the previous night had left them shaken, but they were determined to confront the sinister predator that had been stalking them. They knew that their survival depended on it. Alex, his resolve hardened by the knowledge of the true nature of the creature they faced, led the group back to the hidden cave they had discovered. Mia, her camera at the ready, documented their every move, capturing the raw intensity of their emotions. Ryan, his analytical mind racing, studied the data they had collected, searching for any weaknesses they could exploit. Tina and Jamal, their relationship strengthened by the primal energy they had uncovered, stood side by side, their eyes filled with a newfound determination. They knew that they would have to face their darkest fears and deepest desires if they were to survive, but they were ready to do whatever it took. As they approached the entrance to the cave, the oppressive atmosphere seemed to close in around them, as if the very air itself was trying to smother them. The shadows seemed to writhe and twist, taking on a life of their own, and the whispers and murmurs that had haunted their journey grew louder, more insistent. But the group refused to be deterred, their determination fueled by the knowledge that they were on the verge of uncovering the truth behind the legendary creatures of the Appalachian wilderness. They steeled themselves for the ordeal that lay ahead, their hearts pounding in their chests as they descended into the darkness. The air inside the cave was thick and stale, as if it hadn't been disturbed in centuries. The walls were slick with moisture, and the flickering light of their torches cast eerie, distorted shadows across the ancient twisted symbols that adorned the surface. The stench of decay and rot hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the predator's gruesome appetites. As they delved deeper into the cave, the twisted and broken bodies of countless creatures littered their path, their bones picked clean by the predator that had made this place its lair. The sight was almost too horrific to comprehend, and a wave of nausea washed over them. But they refused to be deterred, their determination fueled by the knowledge that they were on the verge of uncovering the truth behind the legendary creatures of the Appalachian wilderness. They pressed onward, their hearts pounding in their chests as they descended into the darkness. As they reached the heart of the cave, they discovered a vast subterranean chamber filled with strange bioluminescent fungi that cast an otherworldly glow across the damp, moss-covered ground. In the center of the chamber stood a massive twisted throne, its surface adorned with the bones and skulls of countless creatures. And there, perched atop the throne, was the predator itself. Its grotesque, elongated limbs ended in razor-sharp claws that seemed to glint in the flickering light, and its twisted, misshapen body was covered in a thick, matted fur that seemed to absorb the light around it. But it was its eyes that were truly terrifying, burning with a malevolent intensity that seemed to pierce their very souls. The group stood frozen, their hearts pounding in their chests as they stared into the face of true evil. They knew that they were in the presence of an ancient and powerful force that had been lurking in the shadows for centuries, feeding on the fear and despair of those who dared to venture into its domain. But they also knew that they had come too far to turn back now. They had uncovered the truth behind the legendary creatures of the Appalachian wilderness, and they would not let that knowledge die with them. They would face the darkness within themselves if they were to have any hope of survival. And so, as the predator rose from its throne, its twisted, elongated limbs unfurling like the tendrils of some ancient, malevolent beast, they stood their ground, their eyes filled with a newfound determination. They knew that they were about to face the greatest challenge of their lives, but they were ready. As the predator charged, its razor-sharp claws slicing through the air with a deafening roar, they unleashed the primal energy they had uncovered, their bodies surging with a power they had never known before. They fought with a ferocity and determination that seemed to defy the very laws of nature, their every strike fueled by the knowledge that their survival depended on it. The battle raged on for what seemed like an eternity, the cavern echoing with the sounds of their desperate struggle. The predator, its true form revealed, was a force unlike anything they had ever encountered, its twisted and malformed body seemingly impervious to their attacks. But they refused to give up, their determination fueled by the knowledge that they were fighting not just for their own survival, but for the countless lives that had been claimed by the predator over the centuries. They would not let the darkness consume them, not without a fight. As the battle reached its climax, they unleashed a final, desperate strike, their combined strength and determination focused on a single, crucial point. The predator, its defenses momentarily weakened, staggered back, its twisted form momentarily vulnerable. And in that moment they struck, their primal energy surging through the predator's body like a bolt of lightning. The creature let out a piercing, agonized scream that echoed through the cavern, its twisted form convulsing and writhing in pain. As the predator's screams faded into the darkness, the group stood panting, their bodies battered and bruised, but their spirits unbroken. They had faced the darkness within themselves and emerged victorious, their determination and courage proving to be more powerful than the ancient and malevolent force that had sought to consume them. As they made their way back to the surface, the oppressive atmosphere that had surrounded them since the beginning of their expedition seemed to dissipate, replaced by a newfound sense of hope and optimism. They knew that they had uncovered the truth behind the legendary creatures of the Appalachian wilderness, and they would make sure that their story was heard. As they emerged from the cave, the first rays of sunlight breaking through the dense canopy of the forest, they knew that they had faced their darkest fears and emerged stronger for it. They had survived the predator's game, and they would carry the knowledge of their experiences with them for the rest of their lives. And so, as they began the long journey back to civilization, their hearts filled with a newfound sense of purpose and determination, they knew that they had truly become a part of the legend of the Appalachian wilderness. They had faced the darkness within themselves and emerged victorious, their determination and courage proving to be more powerful than the ancient and malevolent force that had sought to consume them. Their story would become a testament to the power of the human spirit, a chilling and provocative tale of survival and self-discovery that would be passed down through the generations, a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there is always hope.